Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty terrifying, a weapon that has allegedly been used to make people just vanish. We're going to break down the science, the facts, and the controversy behind what are known as thermobaric weapons.
Yeah, a weapon that turns a human body into steam in seconds. I mean, that's a pretty chilling way to start, right? This description comes straight from reports on a weapon that's at the center of a very serious international allegation. It really sets the stage for what we're about to get into.
So here's the allegation. Reports coming out of Washington, D.C. claim this very weapon was deployed in the recent Gaza conflict. And the result? Just terrifying. We're talking about thousands of people who apparently just disappeared. The reports say their bodies, their bones, literally nothing was left behind. Okay, so this brings us to the accusation itself. Let's really look at the specific claims being made because the numbers involved are, well, they're staggering. 2,800. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to the source material, that's how many people's bodies have just not been found after these attacks. We're talking no remains, not even a finger, nothing to identify them.
And it doesn't stop there. On top of that, another 3,500 people are reported as missing. So when you add it all up, you're looking at over 6,000 people unaccounted for. It's just a mind-boggling figure. So it begs the question, right? What on earth kind of weapon could do this? Well, the reports point to a very specific and pretty controversial type of explosive. It works in a way that's, well, it's unlike almost anything else out there.
All right, to really get a handle on these allegations, we have to understand the weapon itself. So, what is a vacuum bomb? Okay, so the official name is a thermobaric weapon, but you'll almost always hear it called a vacuum bomb. And there's a really good and frankly terrifying reason for that nickname. It all comes down to how it works. It's an explosive that literally uses the oxygen from the air around it to create this unbelievably high temperature explosion. And when we say high temperature, we mean it. Get this. 3,500 degrees Celsius. To give you some perspective, that's more than double the temperature of molten lava. It's an almost unimaginable amount of heat. So how in the world does it actually do that? How does it create that much heat and destructive power? Well, the process is actually pretty methodical. It's all about a two-stage explosion. So here's how it works. It's a two-step process, which is what makes it so uniquely destructive. First, a small initial charge goes off, but it doesn't really explode. Instead, it disperses a fine cloud of fuel. Think of it like an aerosol spray. Then, a second charge ignites that entire fuel cloud all at once. The result? A massive, high-temperature fireball that instantly consumes all the oxygen nearby. And that's what creates the vacuum effect. It literally sucks the air right out of the area and out of the lungs of anyone close by. Okay, now that we know how it works, we can really start to understand its devastating impact, both on a human level and in terms of how it's used on the battlefield. You know, the source material draws a really powerful and frankly deeply disturbing comparison. It's to Hiroshima, where the intense heat was so great that for some victims, all that was left was a shadow, literally burned onto the ground. The idea is that the heat from a thermobaric weapon is so extreme, it can do something similar. It can essentially vaporize a human body, leaving almost no trace. And this is what makes the weapon so lethal in certain situations. It's especially effective in enclosed spaces, things like tunnels or bunkers. See, that fuel air cloud can seep deep into these structures before it detonates. Then, when the blast and the pressure wave hit, they're magnified inside that confined space, making it pretty much impossible to defend against. And don't think of this as just one type of bomb. Nope. The technology is incredibly versatile. It's been adapted for all sorts of delivery methods. You've got massive versions dropped from fighter jets for wide area impact, but you also have rockets for precision strikes, and even smaller shoulder-mounted weapons that can be used right on the battlefield. Right, so this isn't some theoretical weapon that's just stuck in a lab somewhere. This is very real, and it's an active part of several countries' arsenals. So the big question is, who has them? Well, according to the source material, a number of major world powers either have them or are widely believed to have them. We're talking about the United States, Russia, China, North Korea, and Israel. So yeah, its potential use is definitely a global concern. But what about India? That's a key question our source material brings up, and, well, the answer isn't exactly clear-cut. See, the information out there is pretty contradictory. There hasn't been any official public confirmation either way. On one hand, you have some sources claiming that India secretly possesses these weapons already. But on the other hand, different sources say that India is still just in the research and development phase. So the truth is, we don't definitively know.
And all of this really brings us to the huge ethical question at the center of it all, doesn't it? Should a weapon that can literally vaporize a human body be banned? Some military strategists will argue that it's tactically necessary, but many others believe its effects are just inherently indiscriminate, that you can't control the devastation. As these weapons spread, that line between conventional and, non-conventional warfare, it gets blurrier and blurrier. It really makes you wonder what the future of conflict is going to look like.